is stunning, isn't it? See her little bag there? She could have carried just her lipstick. And perhaps, being a naughty girl, she should have had, perhaps, at this time, her gas mask. But perhaps she wanted to look the business. She was going to meet her boyfriend. And so here we are. We're going up there. And she's going to meet her American fella. And look at that saucy little hat. Wowee. So, there we go. She's meeting Colonel Glenn. I'm sorry, he's just been promoted, haven't you, Colonel? Oh, that's all right then. So they're going to take a stroll down. I don't know where he's going to go with her, but he's going to stroll, obviously, to the halt sign, because she's a very good girl, so she knows where she's going. So those Americans, of course, what they did, that good old saying was, what was it, everybody?
Overpaid, overfed, oversexed.
And over here, yes, over, absolutely. But I think he looks rather smart, doesn't he? So Colonel Glenn, he'll probably be promoted the next time we see him. But let's talk about her outfit. She obviously wanted to match him with the military. She wasn't in any of the uniforms at that time. She wasn't in any of the services. But women were called up, and they didn't have a choice. If you didn't go when you were 17, if you waited till you were 18, you would then be told, Air Force, you know, one of these services, or you could be sent to on the farm to work on the farm. We'll be seeing some of those outfits later on. So if you take another stroll further, what is he showing her? Oh, it's only a map, that's all right then. So the little bag, the little gloves that match, the shoes again with the strap, little higher heels. We've gone away from those slightly dumpy heels in the 20s, and I just love that little hat. She would be a cat for anybody, wouldn't she, in that outfit? So say goodbye to your man, if you would, let go of his arm. Oh, wow, look at that. Gentleman to the end, gentleman to the end. I think that's an absolutely fabulous outfit, isn't it? That's Gillian again. We saw her in the black 1930s show. So we'll be seeing her as we go through the show. So you're starting to get the feel of how this has changed. That black severe number with her hair pulled back, and then into what we're seeing now. So now we've got Louise, and Louise is in a very, very smart outfit. This is wonderful, isn't it? Silky blouse with a little tie, gives it a little of a peplum. So we've gone away from the blouson, but we've got a nice sort of gentle blouse, and that hat, those fancy hats that everybody wore. With the feathers, so it gives it a little bit of style. She's pulled her hair back so that she can wear it suitably. And notice how the makeup changed. It went from very severe, very mature, I'm trying to lose my words here. Anyway, it wasn't very much, was it? The flapper girls wore a lot, but then suddenly in the 1940s, out came the big bright red lip, and the eyes were being done up. They could find makeup at that time through Max Factor. So if we take a little stroll and have a good look at what she's wearing, it's quite severe on the bottom half, of course. It's the straight skirt. That would have been used, and women were now going to work in offices, and they would find they wanted to wear something comfortable, perhaps not around to the trouser brigade just yet. So trousers weren't being worn in offices during the 1940s. So if you stroll up to your partner, she's going to meet up with our ARP man. ARP, well, he was a very, very important man during the forces and during the war, of course. Air raid precaution. Air raid precaution. And he's going to take her down to the halt sign again. This is what it would have been like. You wouldn't have been able to just walk through the roads that you had known all your life or as children. You'd have had sentry boxes. You'd have had the UXB, which means unexploded bomb. You would have had the halt sign. There would have been a military personnel there standing to stop you going through if it was a government building that was behind you. So again, looking very smart there, very comfortable, and she's perhaps going out for a nice evening with her beau. So I'd like to say thank you to our escort, to Ian, and you'll be seeing him again later on. And if Louise would like to saunter back, do love that hat. So glad it's a nice day. We've had a couple of times 2 years ago when it poured, it absolutely tipped down. So our next young lady coming out, as you can see, is Claire. Now we saw her in that pretty sort of gardening outfit, if you like. Oh, that's they've recommended her as well. Little hoop from the train. So can you see how demure, but very sensible, very easy, very comfortable. The lovely hat again, the little saucer hat. the pearls, weren't they the thing that everybody wore? Didn't matter where you went, you wore your pearls, and then you would feel comfortable. So as she takes a little stroll, do take in that she's changed the shoes. No longer got the strap, she's got a nice little comfortable heel, sensible Cuban heel, not those big stilettos that we all went in for in the 1960s. The hat, as I say, works perfectly with the bag and the shoes, the black outfit, and then she's just livened it up. The little pale beige gloves that perhaps work well with the pearls. And again, we're going to ask Major Glenn if he's lurking somewhere, or Colonel Glenn if he can come out from retirement and escort his lady.
I think he's just changing his uniform.
Oh dear, oh dear. In that case, I think we're going to have our man here from the Home Guard. So here we are, Herb Bowes letter. You just can't trust those Americans, can you? I mean, where are they when they're needed? So along comes our lovely Dad's Army man, but we're going to be talking about the uniforms and the men who were in the war later on. We're going to be talking about their uniforms, what they actually did at the time. So thank you for standing in, and we'll have a word with Major Colonel. We're demoting him to Sergeant, I think, to Sergeant Glenn. So, thank you very much. If you'd like to leave your lady there, and then she can come back up onto here for me and just have another little twizzle. Because I want to talk about the dress. It's a beautiful dress. It's turn around a little bit. You can see it's got a nice tie. So that would have cinched it in at the waist. I've got one on my dress as well. And this is a 1940s dress. So with the little puff sleeves, it allowed for movement, not too tight, a pretty little top coming down. She could have worn long gloves. She could have worn something pretty, here he comes, I don't know. She could have worn something more formal if she was going for a cocktail. Just put a little coat over the top and it would have been very, very useful. So thank you, Claire, that looks absolutely stunning. I love the earrings. You see those drop earrings? They're coming into being as well. I'm afraid you're redundant, Colonel. You've done, she's got come and gone, so I don't know. If you'd like to stay there, we'd love to have you later on. So, what's happened here? Well, as I mentioned at the beginning, women joined up, and they weren't necessarily told or have any choice as to where they could go. They actually had to go where they went. And Jackie is actually in the outfit of a woodcutter, if you like. If you can remember what the men were called, can you remember what the men were called? Lumberjacks? Well, these ladies were called Lumberjills. Jack and Jills, of course. So very simple, very simple. But she's in the outfit, and she was part and parcel of the sort of farming lot, the women's army. So if you'd like to stroll yourself up and down there, keep away from her, don't get too near that axe, she's looking a bit dangerous. So she's coming towards you, but she's quite safe actually. So can you see the welly boots, very sensible. She'd have been out in the forest having to chop down those trees. But perhaps it got to be a hot day, and perhaps she didn't need to have all this outfit on. Perhaps if it stopped raining, and I'll take the axe, shall I? So beware, axe lady. So the cape is evidently called, and Jackie will tell you, it's called an Axeman cape. We're talking almost of today in the movies, aren't we? You know, you think of some of those movie titles. Here comes the Axeman. But this would come off. She could take it, drop it down, use it as a bit of covering on the ground. She could sit on it, have her lunch, perhaps a nice bun or something she would have got from the local baker, and then she's in her comfortable outfit of dungarees, sensible boots, as I said. She'd be chopping down those trees. We needed wood. Wood was very essential during the war, and she would have been part and parcel of that group. Thank you very much, Jackie. She's got her hair back sensible in a plait. She's got the berry on, which keeps it out of her eyes and keeps her safe. Of course, in those days, they didn't have any health and safety regulations. She wouldn't have had one of these hard hats. She'd have just had a berry. And mind the trees when they're falling, I suppose. So thank you, Jackie, that's brilliant. We'll be seeing Jackie again later. And here we have got Gillian, and she's definitely going to have some fun. So she's got the little short shorts on. You're too late, Colonel Glenn. And the little bolero. And as she strolls up and comes up onto the platform here, just have a good look at Those strappy shoes again, but they've gone up in height a bit. She's going more sort of to show the legs on, to make their legs looking good. The little tight shorts, they would have been very sensible, very practical. They were stretchy, so they weren't uncomfortable. She could have gone onto the beach with those, or sat out in the garden, or if she was working in an office, she perhaps had that underneath her own outfit, and she could sit out in the gardens in the lunch break and have her sandwiches, etc. Pretty little top there. You can see it's gathered in at the waist, defining the waist. It was all about the waist, wasn't it? Waist and shoulders in those days, and also the bow, keeping her hair out of the way. The sunglasses, yes, let's look at those lovely eyes, and you can see, oh, wow, look at that. Fashionista, absolutely. So she's got the right sort of book. She's got a book there to read, to find out about fashion, etc. So she's going to stroll down to the halt sign again. So anybody wants to take photographs, please do. So that would have been a very comfortable outfit, but just go back a sort of 2 decades, go back to the end of the First World War. Can you imagine some of those men who unfortunately didn't come home seeing this? They would have been shocked beyond belief, because this changed. In 20 years, you went from women in long skirts, corsets, big hats, and not showing an ankle, to this by the 1940s. So thank you, Gillian. Absolutely stunning. So this is sort of casual. She would have been in the office, but she could have then come out and had a good time when she did. And she's a very good girl, because she's actually got her gas mask with her. And this is a genuine ladies' gas mask. They put the gas mask for ladies into leather, and this is a genuine 1940s gas mask. We won't take it out, but believe us, it is in there. So as she strolls up onto the stage, she's got those sensible strap shoes. She is in the office. She's got the pretty little blouse, ties up at the neck. Again, a nice little detail of the little puff shoulder here. And of course it went on later on to having little shoulder pads, didn't it? So this was a sort of a start from there. Little frill bit there, put a shoulder pad in, and suddenly you're going towards the 80s and the 90s, and we're thinking about all those American shows with the big shoulder pads. So if you like to do a stroll, that's great. So imagine her coming from the office. Perhaps she wanted to go to the cinema. And do you remember, perhaps you don't, obviously, but in the 1939, when war was declared, it was a bit of a false war. Children were evacuated, of course, and then later on they all came home because they realised the war wasn't going to happen. And all the entertainment was closed down. The cinemas were closed, the shows were closed, and then suddenly the government realised people needed these to stay open. They needed to have something to keep them happy and lively. So all the cinemas then reopened, and the shows all opened, and then it became a very well lit. The lights would go down. You didn't have the lights on in the West End of London, of course, because that would have been a sheer target for the bombers. So it's got a nice wrap-round skirt. It's of wool, so very sensible. It's got a little gap there. She wanted to, take the skirt off and perhaps have a little shorts or something underneath. But all in all, it's a very sensible but comfortable outfit for her to have worn to go out to meet a friend, or when she's coming from the office. So thank you, Louise. So we move on to the next one. So a little round of applause for Louise. And this is Claire again, and she's going to the beach, and my goodness, look at that. So again, she's showing the old legs off there, but she's got an all-in-one. And what I like to think about this outfit is that it may well have been a dress. Remembering the make, do and mend, running out of materials, you couldn't just go into all these shops, Debenhams and all the others where you could just buy endless bits of material. So maybe she would have converted this from a nice dress. It's got the little puff sleeves, it's got the short sleeves, and it's also, she's turned it into a little all-in-one. So if you make a little stroll, I think they'll be able to see back and front. So imagine this as a full-length dress, and then out comes your needles, and you think to yourself, yes, I want something that looks a bit special for the beach. She buys a nice hat, she trims it up with the white ribbon, and that looks absolutely stunning. And what's she reading? Well, she's looking at the movie mag, and what have we got there? Casablanca. So Casablanca, that would have been one of the popular shows here. And what we got on some of these posters here are what was going on in the country, like evacuation and the bombing, etc. So as Claire walks down here and does a little twizzle for us by the stage, see the sunglasses, so she's going to have a nice time on the beach, and if she's lucky she might meet Major Glenn. Come on, Major Glenn, let's bring you in on. Well, you were a naughty boy, you missed your cue, so there you are. So she's going to stroll up there. So she meets this lovely American soldier on the beach, and he's going to escort her to her house. He's a gentleman. They were gentlemen, but they brought over these nylons. Somebody told me the other day where the word nylon came from. Made in New York and London, Nye Long. Dun-dun. Today's important fact. Right, thank you very much if you'd like to escort her. And then we're going to move through to the more formal 1940s. She had the dress on for the 1930s. She had the scarf around the neck. She's converted it. She needed to turn it into something glamorous, and she's done just that. She put gloves with it. She's opened it up. She's showing off this lovely shoulder line. And the pretty necklace that really works with it, the drop earrings that go with the lovely pearl necklace, and the little piece in the hair, which has just made it look so special. She's dropped the hair down, she's got it into the bang, which was the fashion in that day, and if she does a nice stroll, that looks absolutely stunning. Trying to remember how it looked when you saw her as the 1930s girl, what a difference. How different is that? Absolutely beautiful, yeah, and it works so well, doesn't it? It looks very film star. If you saw any of the film stars, like Hedy Lamarr, or any of the old film stars, Greta Garbo, they would have had that sort of slashed open neckline. It really accentuates the human figure, the lady's figure, without being too exposing. It's rather nice. I think the 40s was a lovely style. It made them look so feminine. They had things like my stockings, they had the seam up the back, and it looked absolutely fabulous. Little evening bag completes the outfit. Thank you very much. This is the Land Army. So if you do a little movement up onto here for me, Rose. So very practical, very sensible, but the girls didn't have any choice. They were sent to the farms, and they'd have to get up at 5 in the morning. They'd have to learn to milk cows, drive tractors, and you see these lovely old photographs of them, these women, and they really muscled in and they knuckled down and they did the business. So she's got the jumper on, very sensible. If it got a bit hot, she could take that off and just have the blouse or the shirt underneath. Very sensible, almost like joggers that they were using for riding horses. And then the welly boots again with socks. They needed the socks to keep them comfortable, to take a little stroll. So when did the Land Army start? Well, believe it or not, in 1917. The first Land Army was created in the First World War, and then after the First World War was over, they disbanded it. And then suddenly they realised in the Second World War they needed these women to go down on the farm and help to dig. All the young men had gone to war, and so there was nobody there to help dig over the crops, plant the seeds, run the tractors, etc., look after the farm animals. So this was when the Land Army came into being. So from 1939 through to 1957, they were actually part and parcel. It was disbanded again. And I was talking to Rose beforehand because she knows a bit about the Land Army. When we have days down here with our museum, as I mentioned before, we're always open every Wednesday from 2 till 4, and we do dress up sometimes, and then every second Sunday we actually dress up usually when the trains are running, or there's a special event, or it's a sort of a bank holiday. And then we talk about the various uniforms and the things we're wearing. And Rose knows all about the Land Army, and she told me that the women got much less pay than the men. They only got 27 shillings, 28 shillings, and what were the men getting? The men were getting about double. Start of feminism, start of, everybody sort of, and the suffragettes. By the way, there's a very big suffragette march in Cardiff, but don't go to it just yet, because we've got lots more for you to see. Thank you very much. And I think this smacks very much of Hollywood. It's the big bright colours, it's a tie waist, so if you'd like to make your way on for us. Thank you very much. You'd like to do a stroll up and meet up with your ARP man who's going to escort you. So she's got the nice green bag that matches, got a sensible shoes on, she's got a nice little piece in the hair, and the good old pearls again. So if you meet up with your partner, he's going to take you for a little walk down to the halt sign and back. So that's absolutely beautiful. So that would have been a comfortable outfit. The little tie on the left here gives it a bit of detail, doesn't it? Shows the detail off. She could have been going out for a ball or a dance, who knows, but certainly she would have been certainly going to enjoy herself and have a good time. So thank you very much. If you'd like to leave your escort there, and thank you. Thank you very much, Louise. So a little twizzle just for the final time. Okay, so if you'd like to make your way, and hopefully we have the next young lady coming on in our formal gear, and you'll see how it evolves and develops and becomes very, very glitzy, and I'm sure Hollywood had some impact on that. And then we have Claire, who again looking very glamorous. It's almost sort of heading back to the 30s with the geometric pattern. Remember the Art Deco? That was a 1930s period, and that's sort of gone through to this outfit, if you like. So she's going to take a stroll, and you'll see a lovely silk blouse with the peplon again, that's got that nice little piece, and the sort of fancy bit at the front. Nice and plain at the back, so it shows off the back. Little puff sleeves, and again you're getting the padding in there now. So they've gone through from the little gathered piece through to padding there. The pretty little hat, so she's obviously going for a cocktail party. So I think if Ian, no, it's Glenn somewhere. Have we lost Glenn again? Oh, he's come on. Well done, Glenn. So, are we still a major, or have we
No, still colonel.
We're still a colonel, so we're a colonel. So off we go with our lady, and you're going to take her perhaps to the American bar at the Savoy. That'd be a good idea, yeah? She looks as though she's dressed for the part. The lovely swingy skirt, which would made her feel very feminine. A lot of freedom of movement, the pretty shoes. The lovely sort of cream top, silk, would have been comfortable to wear. And then the pretty little hat and the bag and gloves to match. Don't go without your bag, don't go without your hat. So that's great. If you'd like to leave your little lady there, thank you very much, Mr. Escort. And thank you, Claire, that's absolutely stunning. Wowie. So her escort should be there somewhere. He's just gone again. Don't say he's going to change his outfit, is he? So let's talk about Gillian. The pretty, isn't that beautiful with her hairstyle? Suits her absolutely. The black shoes, the little bag, the little silver bag just enhances it. Pretty little feature on the top. Now that again might have been a longer dress that she had back in the 30s. She may have shortened it, and she may have sewn on these pretty little flower pieces to just sort of give it a life. Those fabulous sleeves, they are really the feature of the dress, aren't they? Those little cuffs with 3 little pearl buttons, so pearls come into being, and that sort of matches in quite nicely with the rest of the dress, and the pearls she's wearing in her ears and round her neck. So she's going to take a stroll. She's going to find her escort, who is the Major, or perhaps the Colonel of the United States Army. He's gone again. Never mind. Okay. Ian, would you like to escort our lady? No? Ian, would you like to escort her?
With pleasure.
I don't know what he's doing.
How did you like?
No, there you go. Glenn, actually, who dresses as an American, is actually our chairman of Barry War Museum. So we're all volunteers, and we're very proud of our museum. Wonderful little museum. If you haven't seen it, it's all free. First World War trench, Second World War kitchen. Go and have a browse. So I think that deserves a central piece. So if anybody wants to take photographs, I think that's absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Ian. Thank you for standing in at the last minute. And a pretty dress there that I think that's absolutely beautiful. One of my favourites, I think that is. So thank you, Gillian. So she's going to make her way off, and she'll be dressing very rapidly now, because what's coming out now, surprise, surprise, we won't tell you. You're going to see what they've come into now. So first of all, let's talk about the ARP. So Ian, give us a little rundown on what the ARP did and what they were in the Second World War.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, usually when people see me, the first thing they say is, Dad's Army, obviously, because the character of Mr. Hodges in Dad's Army is familiar to everybody. But in all seriousness, when the clouds of war were gathering in Europe in about late 38, early 39, the government began to take things seriously, and they called for volunteers from among the communities to be air raid wardens. They were all volunteers, they were all keen, very smart, public-spirited citizens, and they enrolled for the task in hand. And at first they were just given armbands and tin helmets, and they just wore their suits. And their task would have been, when there was an air raid, they would sort of alert the public and direct them to the shelters and generally make sure that things were in order. And then when war did break out, things just got a little bit more heated, obviously, and they were issued with coveralls, dungarees, if you like. And again, we've got the armband to identify who we are, and the ARP insignia. The white helmet with the stripes indicates a senior warden, like the one you see on Dad's army. And of course they carried a gas mask and a whistle, like a police whistle, so that if there was a warning to be given, they could just go give a few blasts on that. So basically they would patrol the streets and they would be in charge of a group of other wardens, and they would ensure that the blackout conditions were adhered to. Obviously we all know the cliched phrase, you know, put that light out. But it was a very serious matter. They used to believe, in fact, if an aeroplane flying at about 1,000 feet could see a cigarette burning, you know, at night down below, which wasn't the case, but they thought that. So that's what they did. They were a part of the civil. In actual fact, it evolved into the civil defence organisation later in the war. They were given a blue battle dress uniform, and once the Battle of Britain had been won, and as time progressed, the Blitz kind of petered out. They had less of a role, but during the early part of the war, 1939, 40, 41, they fulfilled a very important role. So that's what I'm representing today, an air raid warden. Okay.
Thanks, Ian. So, round of applause for Ian. Ian's going to hover here by the stand mic, and we're now talking about somebody else who was very important in the army, in the civil defence, if you like, and that is Steve, and he's in the what we now know as Dad's Army. But of course, originally it was called the Home Defence, and then it became known as the Home Guard. So Steve's going to just come up on to give us a little rundown on what he did and why he was used.
Yeah, good afternoon. Yeah, I'm representing a member of the Home Guard. Now, when the war started, obviously all our army, navy went abroad to fight. Bit of a disaster, Dunkirk occurred, our army was a bit of disarray, we were in trouble. So the Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, basically said, help, we need volunteers to come forward and to help out the army. So the army is organised, and they were called the Local Defence Volunteers. Local personnel who were not called up for service for reason of occupation, reason of age, and they formed themselves into platoons locally and did quite a sterling job. A lot of fun was made of them because of their age. Dad's Army, the Home Guard. But bearing in mind, a lot of these people, they'd served in the Great War, the First World War. They knew how to handle themselves, they knew how to handle weapons, and their function, should the invasion have happened, would have just been to hold the enemy up long enough for the army to organise, regroup, and to form a proper defence. And they were so good at it that the Prime Minister said, no longer will they be the Local Defence Volunteers, we will now call them the Home Guard, because that's what they were doing, they were guarding the homeland. They all had daytime jobs. I myself would have been a shipwright, a ship's carpenter, an occupation which was deemed necessary, and I wouldn't have been allowed to join the armed forces. So I would have been one of the first volunteers to join the Home Guard.
Thank you. A big round of applause for Steve. And then finally, he's appeared from somewhere or the other, we have Colonel Glenn. Because in 1943, and I'm sure some of you know, we actually had the American services here in Barry. And Glenn's going to tell you a little bit about his uniform and a little bit about what the Americans were doing here in Barry.
Thank you, Rosemary. Well, Colonel George C. Pilkington arrived in Barry in about August 1942, in fact, and he became the commanding officer of G40. If you've heard of SRD number 2, you'll know what I'm talking about. But between Barry and the docks, from 1940 onwards, a supply depot came into being, known as the Supply Reserve Depot, to supply the British Army overseas. And about July 1942, American spies arrived in the area, and they said, oh, we'd like a piece of this, please, we'd like a piece of the action. So they began to take over SRD, and virtually took over most of it, all of it almost, and it became known as G40. So on the outskirts of Barry, there was a huge supply depot. Now, the good people of Barry, for a number of years, had been suffering from rationing, shortages. And right on their doorstep, they've got a piece of America. They call part of the American presence the Chicago Stockyard over at Cadoxton Sidings. All these carriages full of stuff, heading for France ultimately, but to supply the American army overseas. And I was talking to somebody yesterday about the local black market, how much of that stuff actually found its way into local homes by various means, legal and illegal. Anyway, George C. Pilkington, the colonel, and this is the uniform I'm wearing, member of the Quartermaster Corps. He'd fought in the First World War, so he's a veteran of that conflict, and he had a somewhat easier job, should we say, a non-combatant job in World War II. So he was the senior American officer in this area for a number of, almost 18 months. And he would have been invited to many local homes. Many of the local dignitaries would have entertained him to Sunday lunch. He appears in a number of wedding photographs, because a number of his officers married local women. So he must have been quite a celebrity in his own lifetime in Barry. And so this is Ian, this is a four-pocket.
Class A uniform.
This is the Class A American officer's uniform. Class A four-pocket with a belt and, say four pockets, pinks. The trousers were known as pinks, and they always wore nicely polished, and I did polish them this morning, nicely polished shoes, and they looked the part. So I'm recommending the American officer, or representing, sorry.
Oh, thank you very much. So I think, would you mind just making a little tableau here in front of us, so that we can just sort of give one final look, if anybody wants to, just the three of you here in front here, be lovely. So photographs. And then I'm going to ask this young lady here, who's so beautifully dressed, if she would come and join us, in case anybody of her family would like to take a photograph of her with our American Home Guard and our ARP. So I think she's just about to come across. Label on in case she gets lost, and then everybody knows where she is. So we're going to have a nice photograph taken with... Thank you, gentlemen, that's fantastic. So we're moving on. You said about the 30s, the 40s. Way, look at that. On you come, Louise. So Louise, she's got the jeans turned up. Can you imagine them doing the so, and she's got the smart little blouse, and you did start, I remember tying my blouse round. I wouldn't dare to do it now, but you tied the blouse round. Still got the lovely hairpiece in to give her a little bit of pizzazz, shall we say. Flatties, where those lovely heels have gone. It suddenly became a world of flatties, didn't it? So if you'd like to make a stroll, Louise, up and down, that'd be good. Okay, take your way up and up to the end there. And I'm going to ask you to actually stay at this point here, because we're going to bring everybody else out as well. So just a little bit further up, so everybody up there can get a look at you. And then if you just stay where we are, and then if our next lady comes out, and look at that, she's got the bunchy petticoats underneath, she's got the 50s bag that she would have had all her makeup on, and she's still got the gloves, but what a fantastic outfit that is. Little sailor outfit, look at the button detail. Done away with those little puffy sleeves and the padding, but there's the petticoat. Yay, look at that. It's just to show it's all genuine. And this is all genuine gear. This is the real McCoy. So that pretty little sailor collar. Look at the headband. Now that maybe have come from when she perhaps worked in the war service, perhaps as a land army girl, who knows? Or perhaps she just took on that style. So isn't that a fantastic outfit? She's going to stay there with Louise, and we're going to see the last lady coming on in her outfit. Fantastic, thank you very much. And here's Claire. And again, just look at that. The straight skirt, the little top, a little bit like the top or the dress that Gillian wore, that she pulled slightly across to a little bit of reveal, but there we've gone a little bit further in the 1950s. Everything was okay. That fabulous little check skirt, again, genuine stuff, and she again has got slightly lower heels on, so she's going to walk around, she's going to show us, no gloves, no hat, just a little saucy tie around the head. Again, as I say, perhaps taken from the war. Maybe these women were working in the the armaments factory or one of the aircraft factories. And of course, if you know about the Second World War, we had these wonderful women, these pilots, who used to go to the aircraft factories when the aircraft were made, the Spitfires, the Hurricanes and the bombers, and then they would fly them to the airports or the airfields where they were needed for the men. And there's one, a lady, Joy, I can't remember her surname, and a lovely story I'm just going to tell you very quickly about. She flew a Lancaster bomber into one of the airfields. She got out and there were 3 men waiting at the bottom of the stairs, and she stood by them and she waited and she waited and she turned to them and she eventually said, sorry, why are you waiting? They said, we're waiting for the pilot. And she said, I am the pilot. One of them didn't believe her, went up the stairs into the bomber, looked round, came down and said, oh, right. And she used to tell that story right the way through until she died. She died in December of last year, and she was in her 90s, late 90s. Little tiny thing, smaller than me, about the size of Louise there, that height, tiny little soul. Used to get into these great big aircraft and fly them. So we're going to have now everybody coming in front here. We're going to ask for the ladies who performed before, if you'd like to come and make a tableau here with everyone. And our lovely men as well. I expect the Major Glenn has gone off. Yes, thank you very much. Where's he gone this time? So if you'd like to come and join us, just so we can take a final bow. And if we've got ladies who were in the... have we got ladies, are they in there? No. Do you want to go and hike them out? So, yeah, we're just going to have the men here. We can take a nice photo if anybody wants one. Is Major Glenn coming? Whereas he keeps running off, he's a pain, isn't he? So we'll get the other ladies out in a moment in their outfits. So we'd like to say thank you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned something about fashion. You've seen how it's worked through from the 20s, 30s, etc. Oh yes, come and join us here. You've got to have a photograph with you. And we are doing another show which will be slightly different. We've got different outfits to wear at 2 o'clock. So if you are around and you're going up onto the grassy knoll or going into our museum, do go and look in the museum. I'm sure you'll be absolutely amazed by what's in there. So 2 o'clock, there are going to be different outfits being shown again. So thank you very much, and I hope you've enjoyed our show.
On the farm, every Friday, on the farm, it's rabbit pie day, so every Friday that ever comes along, I get up and sing this little song. Run, rabbit, run, run, run. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run.